Following the introduction of her hairy tarantula to her audience, the star of the show 1,000-Pound Sisters, Amy Slaton, is now disclosing a stunning revelation about her children. Since the first season of the show, Amy and her older sister Tammy Slaton have been working together to achieve their weight loss goals. In the first episode, Amy had a weight of more than 400 pounds and expressed a desire to improve her health in order to facilitate the birth of a child. Following the bariatric surgery that Amy underwent in 2019, she has successfully shed more than 175 pounds, making her goal come true. When Amy was married to Michael Halterman, who is now her ex-husband, she gave birth to 2 sons, Gage and Glenn. Since her divorce from Michael, Amy has been raising her children on her alone, and it has been a challenging journey. There have been criticisms leveled against her parenting abilities, particularly in light of her recent incarceration. As seen in a new clip from the forthcoming episode of 1,000-Pound Sisters that was posted by E! News, Amy and her siblings are now participating in a haunting tour in London. In response to the guide's inquiry as to whether or not they had an interest in the supernatural, namely things that go bump in the night, Amy proudly confesses that she named her children after figures from the horror genre. Amy receives reassurance from the guide that she is in the correct location. When Amy was deciding on names for her children, she drew inspiration from a number of well-known children who were possessed in horror films and books. Glenn is a character from Seed of Chucky, and Gabe is a character from Pet Sematary. Gage William Creed, the homicidal child in Stephen King's novel Pet Sematary, which was published in 1983, is the inspiration for Gabe's name. After being murdered by a speeding truck and buried in a cemetery, Gage is possessed by a Wendigo. This occurs after he is buried in the cemetery. There is also a fascinating history behind Glenn's name, which is intriguing to consider. It appears that Amy was thinking about the child that Chucky and Tiffany have, whose name is Glenn, who is a character from the Child's Play franchise. The infant is given the name Glenn by Chucky, while Tiffany makes the decision to give the child the name Glenda after observing that Glenn does not have any genital tissues. In addition to being a ventriloquist's dummy, Glenn/Glenda is a gender-fluid individual who holds the souls of 2 different persons. Since childhood, Amy has had a strong fascination with all things eerie. It is not necessary for Amy to demonstrate how much of a horror enthusiast she is. Even more impressively, she has a tattoo of Jack Skellington, the main character from The Nightmare Before Christmas, on her arm. In the same vein as Amy, her ex Michael is a fan of horror films. They found inspiration in Pet Sematary because it was their favorite horror story and since the main antagonist was their favorite character. Aside from the fact that Chucky's child is named Glenn, it is possible that the character Glenn Rhee from The Walking Dead, who is portrayed by Steven Yeun, was also a source of inspiration for Amy when she was naming her second-born child. What we think about Amy Slaton's decision to name her children after horror characters. In spite of the fact that Amy wanted to honor her favorite horror figures by naming her sons after them, she should have also considered the histories of the characters and the impact that they would have on the children once they reached adulthood. For example, Glenn, a character from The Walking Dead, suffers a horrible death when he is struck in the skull by Lucille, a baseball bat that is wrapped in barbed wire. Glenn and Glenda have a connection with their parents that is unhealthy, and Gage, after being revived, is responsible for the death of his mother. It would have been possible for the star of 1,000-Pound Sisters to select characters that were less revolting instead.